who are connected via Skype and those who are connected via YouTube streaming, and also those who are connected via Facebook streaming. What you start doing after you are connected, you should do it before coming for this session, and this noise keeps on feeding, and from live recording it cannot be removed. Each one of you, I am not calling by name, those who are connected via Skype should check their systems before coming live on to the streaming. Whatsoever noise comes in, it becomes difficult for me to remove. Because once it is recorded, there is no way that it has to be edited. And then whatever noise comes because of your trying to connect is already recorded. So make sure you check your system, get connected, and if you cannot spare 5 minutes before that, before this beginning of the program, beginning of the live streaming, there is no point. These recordings will be available even after, whenever you need them. So we have to try to give as crisp, as clear, free from any kind of disturbance. From my studios, when I begin the live streaming, I make sure there isn't any outside disturbance. On the path of inward journey, self-remembrance alone is enough. Self-remembrance alone is enough, and you do not need anything else. In the ways of Krishna, there is no need for any kind of discipline. And as a result, there is no need for disciplining the 7 bodies. The path of discipline is quite different from that of devotion. Discipline is a gradual process. It consists of stages, goes through stages. Devotion, which is the outcome of love, is integral and one. Without any stages in the path of love, there are no stages. Discipline divides man into different bodies and begins to work stage by stage. Devotion does not do anything like this for the sake of making the spiritual journey in stages. However, those who believe in discipline have to divide human body into 7 parts. Each part becomes a stepping stone for the next one. It is like the ladder. When you set your foot, when you set your feet on the first step of the ladder, only then you can move to the next step. It is like the education system. You have to go systematically in stages. When you graduate from a particular standard or form, only then you go to the next. So the previous one becomes the way for the next step. Each part is used as a stepping stone to another. But devotion does not believe in dividing man. It accepts man as one piece, one whole, an indivisible entity. Devotion absorbs the devotee wholly and totally into the bosom. Wholly and totally into the bosom. A spiritual discipline has many divisions and subdivisions. One discipline divides man into 7 bodies. Another divides into 7 chakras or psychocenters. Another says that man is a 7-storied structure, so on and so forth. Different disciplines have different ways of dividing and subdividing, but devotion rejects all divisions straight away and accepts man in his totality. And it is the total man who is called upon to remember himself. Devotion knows only one thing: remembrance. Remembrance. And you cannot remember a thing piece by piece. Either you remember it whole or you do not. Mira, along the path, says, I was one of the milkmaid during the time of Krishna. I danced. I danced on the bank of the Blue River, under the moonlight, and along with Krishna and Radha. That memory is fresh like a breeze in my being. My name was Lalita. Lalita was one of the very important milkmaid gopi of Krishna. This remembrance is alone enough for Meera to enter into that state of ecstasy. You have to go into that state of remembrance. And if you can remember your connections in the past, that is why quite often I say there is a power within that knows beyond our knowings. All of a sudden, you meet someone, a master or someone, and you realize that there is something much deeper that is pulling you towards You are not able to understand what it is. It is remembrance. Devotion knows only one thing, remembrance, and you cannot remember a thing piece by piece. Either you remember it whole or you do not. One cannot remember himself so that he is part and part God and part human. If he remembers only totality. The process of remembering is sudden and total. It comes like a déjà vu. The process of remembering is sudden and total. It cannot be piecemeal or gradual. It happens in one sweep, a quantum leap. Remembrance, therefore, is an explosion. Remembrance is an explosion. There is a power within that knows beyond our knowings. We are bound to each other by a causeless force, bound to each other by a causeless force. Discipline, on the other hand, has a sequence. Devotion has none. For example, you need to recall any particular name that you have forgotten. You need it badly. You need it urgently, but you cannot remember. The name is so familiar to you that you wander. You are simultaneously aware that you know the name, yet you cannot recall it. You are in a state of perplexity. You are confused. It is a state of perplexity. You know that you know, and yet you fail to remember it. You have completely forgotten it in that moment, completely forgotten that in that very moment. The very word forgetfulness means you forget something you know. You are aware of it. At some deeper level of your unconsciousness, there is awareness. Yet it fails to communicate with your conscious mind. In the deep layer of your unconsciousness, the name is there, but the bridge between unconsciousness and the conscious mind is not being established. So you have to build a bridge between these two parts of your mind, the unconscious and the conscious. You try different ways to recall this once very familiar name or event or incident that you need so urgently. You strain your mind, you scratch your head, you close your eyes, twitch your eyebrows, and yet it goes on eluding you. Nothing works. Neither scratching the head, nor twitching your eyebrows. Nothing works. The more you try to strain yourself, the more difficult it becomes to find. The more you try, the more tense you become. This tenseness then becomes another barrier between you and the mind. A tense mind goes into pieces. A quiet mind collects itself and becomes whole again. That is why the emphasis is on being relaxed and allow quietness around. A tense mind goes into pieces. A quiet mind collects itself and becomes whole once again. Your difficulty is that the more you strain to find the solution yourself, the more you become incapable of. One part of the mind is trying hard to recall it or trying to find a solution, and another part is simultaneously worrying and cursing itself for its incapacity to do it. You are caught between the two. Two suggestions, contrary to one another, are being fed into your mind simultaneously. Two suggestions. What are the two suggestions? One part of the mind is trying very hard to find a solution, to recall the name, and the other part simultaneously is getting worried and cursing itself because of its incapacity to do it, to recall, to remember, to sort the problems inflicted upon you. The two suggestions are contrary to one another and are being fed into your mind simultaneously, and they are enough to make you incapable, incapacitate you, to paralyze you, to create all sorts of things in your mind, in your head. They also undermine your self-confidence. This is the state when brain begins to do many things and it does not support you. Then what happens? A friend comes and you tell him about your difficulty. He tells you to drop it and engage in some conversation which has nothing to do with what you are trying to find on your own, the solution. Remember, the symptoms that you are having is the outcome of your conflict between the subconscious, the unconscious, and the conscious mind. The bridge is broken. The unconscious mind is trying to find a solution, and the conscious mind is trying to worry about its incapacity to find a solution. So he tells you, forget about all this, engaged in something else which has nothing to do with what you are trying to remember. Many things you can do. You take two cigarettes out of your pocket, one, and you and your friend begin to smoke and start talking trivia, petty things. In the meantime, you forget your worry about the name and wonder of wonder happens. The whole name suddenly pops up and you have it once again. What has happened? How is that you remember it suddenly in a state of relaxation? The reason is simple. As soon as you give up straining yourself for the name, the tension that was being caused by opposite pulls on your mind suddenly disappears and you enter into a state of relaxation. Before, your mind was split in two parts, and all your symptoms of schizophrenia, the physical, the apparent signs, were caused by the opposing pull of the mind, and it has now disappeared. You entered into a state of relaxation. Before that, your mind was split into two parts. One which possesses the name, the solution, and the other which wanted it to be recalled, and they were fighting with one another. This tension disappears when your mind was withdrawn from search for the solution and engaged in conversation with your friend. The cigarette added to your relaxation, and the trivia, the talk that has nothing to do with, has helped to find the solution. What you had failed to remember with effort came so effortlessly, and when it comes whole. When it comes whole. I have said this as an illustration. This is how our ordinary memory works. Memory is one of the functions of the mind, which is divided into two parts. One part is called the conscious mind, and the other is called the unconscious. And curiously enough, truth, the conscious and unconscious have a hand in the way your memory works. We use conscious mind in our day-to-day world. It serves us 24 hours a day. The unconscious mind is used sparingly. The unconscious mind is used sparingly. It is used whenever we need it. The unconscious mind is used only when we need it. Conscious mind is the lighted part of the mind, while the unconscious mind is submerged in darkness. The memory I was speaking about remains hidden in the unconscious layer of the mind, whose conscious part is trying to remember it. The conscious mind is trying to remember something that is hidden in the subconscious. So conscious mind is fighting with the unconscious part. One part is fighting with the another, and two are part of your own mind, which Shankar says in one of the most beautiful compositions, Nirvan Shatkam. As such, Shankar was a logician. He tried to put everything in a logical framework, and that's where he has failed. Two incidents that had happened in his life that had made tremendous change. This Nirvan Shatkam, the composition of Shatkam means of 6 stanzas of 4 lines each, was in the early part of Shankar's life, when his logical mind has not yet developed. He is said to be at that time the age of between 6 or 8. He composes Mano Buddhi Ahankar Chittani Naham. Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, Chit. These are the 4 corners of the mind within which you operate. Man, the area where these things are stored, and the others form the layer, the conscious and unconscious. Buddhi, Ahankar, the ego sense, and Chit, the storehouse of the memory, the unconscious part. Whatsoever you do without remembrance, without awareness, is stored in your unconscious part. Otherwise, it is finished then and there, and you do not have to worry about or carry it with you. When you are working in an office on a particular problem, if you finish it, it is finished. But if you do not finish it and the long weekend comes in, it will remain on your mind, hiding in some corner, trying to find a solution. And over the weekend, you will be wondering how to find a solution for this. So beautifully he explains that Mano Buddhi Ahankar Chittani Naham, and then he goes on saying that he is not relation, he is not father, not mother. In fact, all that he says refers to the attributes of the being, moving from the mind to the being. And another beautiful composition is Bhaj Govindam. Bhaj Govindam Mood Mate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukkrij Karne, Mood Jahehi Dhanagam Trishnam, Yellab Se Nij Karmo Patam, Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chittam. Mood Bhaj Govindam Mood Mate. Seek remembrance. Remembrance of that which is. O fool, mood mate, what shall you gain? This is contrary to what Shankar preached throughout his life just for these two compositions, Nirvan Shatkam and Bhaj Govindam, I will forget all the logic of Shankar. I have taken an illustration how does the ordinary memory works. Memory is one function of the mind which is divided into two parts. One part is known as conscious mind, the other is unconscious mind. In fact, these are the two layers of the mind. And curiously enough, curiously enough truth, the conscious and unconscious mind have a part to play in one's memory, how memory functions. You use conscious mind on a day-to-day basis. It serves you 24 hours a day. An unconscious mind is used sparingly whenever you need it. Conscious mind is the lighted part of the mind, while the unconscious is submerged in darkness. The memory I was speaking to you about was hidden in the unconscious mind. And that memory the conscious mind was trying to remember. So the conscious part is a constant fight with its unconscious part. And so long as this fight continues, you cannot recall, you cannot find a solution at all. Remembering is possible only when this conflict stops and two conflicting parts of the mind are put together. Then that which was standing on the doorstep of the unconscious, which made you certain that you knew it. That is how it goes on. I know it. It is at the tip of my mind, but I am not able to recall. It is there. Very much I can see it clearly. You were standing at the doorstep of the unconscious, which made you certain that you knew it, emerges into the conscious, and you have it. Remembering the divine, or what you call self-remembering, goes even deeper than the unconscious. It is not buried. It is not there hidden in the unconscious. It is even beyond that. There is yet another part of your mind which is called collective unconscious. Another part of the unconscious which is collective unconscious. Let me explain this. It is in another way. I said conscious is the superficial part of the mind which is lighted, and below it lies the unconscious part buried in the dark. Then even below that unconscious lies the collective unconscious, as the name suggests. You can take a very simple example. On your own, you would not like to thief anything. But when you are a part of great congregation, when there is a riot in the city, you are taking part in that, and looting happens. something that you would not do as an individual, but as part of the crowd, you will do it. You are part of that crowd. Being the part of the crowd and acting accordingly is collective unconscious. So, what happens if everybody is doing it? I will not be punished. But as an individual, if you break into a particular shop, you would be punished by law. But when you are part of the crowd and you commit the same act, it is a totally a different act. So such is the nature of the collective unconsciousness. Below the unconscious is the collective unconscious, and at the bottom lies, even below that, is cosmic unconsciousness. Each act that you do, I am speaking of certain words. Right now you are hearing it. As the broadcast, the live streaming continues, each word that I am speaking, it is analog. My system converts it into digital format. It is when the sound waves are converted into digital format, they travel beyond time and space, and these become the part of the cosmos. First collective, then cosmos. This is how the live streaming via radios and televisions comes to you. When a program is being telecast or an audio is being released, it is in Android form. Then the system through which I am streaming it live, whether it is YouTube or Facebook or Skype, my system converts it into digital format and it travels. It remains part of the cosmos. And you have your equipment which is connected to this live streaming. It receives those, because you are tuned into that. It receives those stimuli, receives those electrical charges in the digital format and converts into analog once again. And analog, you hear it. So everything that happens, these words are being part of the collective unconscious and part of the cosmic unconscious. In case of this broadcast, it is going to be the part of the cosmic consciousness, not unconscious. And you can connect to that. Remembrance of God or self-remembrance happen at the level of cosmic mind. Remember this, self-remembrance happens at the level of the cosmic mind, which is the ultimate consciousness. God or self is known when we become completely integrated, not only with our unconscious and collective minds, but also with our cosmic consciousness. Here I am not talking about unconsciousness, which is the highest. To be in contact with the cosmic mind is what we call the highest. I explain this with another example. When you meditate, when you are part of the live streaming, the words flow, they carry the essence that taoshobuddha is. You go into deep meditation. You first in contact with your individual unconscious mind, then some of you begin to experience various things. And whatsoever you experience comes out of your unconscious mind, because this energy triggers something in your unconscious layer. And then you become a collectivity. Now you are not individual entities separate from each other. You are collective whole. This is the moment when you go into deep meditation and touch those levels of the mind which are part of the collective mind. Then you do not feel, it feels like the dancing is going on, you are part of it. Then it does not seem that you are doing anything. It seems it is a cosmic laughter. It is happening and you are participating in it. It feels you are not there. Only existence is, and everything in the existence is dancing. The dance, the music surrounds you. The stars are dancing, the mountains, the birds, the flowers, every particle under the sun is dancing. When your dance becomes a small, then your dance becomes a small but integral part of the universal dance. This experience comes from the contact with collective unconsciousness. Below collective unconsciousness lies the world of cosmic unconsciousness. You arrive there through collective unconsciousness. And once you are connected with cosmic unconsciousness, your awareness undergoes a complete mutation. Then you cease to feel that you are a part of the whole. Rather, you know that you and the whole are one. You are not part of the total, but totality itself. To say that you are part of the whole is duality. When the two are one, even to say that, it is erroneous. It expresses through your presence. And then suddenly remember who you are. This remembrance shoots up like an arrow from the depth of the cosmic unconsciousness and fills your conscious mind. Then you also know and know simultaneously that this awareness that you are Brahman, You are consciousness, the ever expanding, the ultimate. The Supreme is nothing new, it has always been with you, buried deep in your cosmic unconscious. I divided the process of remembering into 4 parts so that it becomes easier for you to understand. I do not agree to this division. In fact, remembering or unconscious is nowhere fragmented. It is an integral whole. The conscious and unconscious are extensions of the same intelligence, which is one and indivisible. But to explain to you, to make you understand, I have to take the 4 parts of it. In our innermost depth, you are aware that you are God, you are divine. You do not have to become divine. It's just you have to remember. We have only to discover the divinity hidden within us. It is a matter of recognition. The seers of the Upanishad says, "O son, please uncover the truth that is covered with gold." It simply means that truth is veiled and it has to be unveiled. Divinity is not to be achieved, instead to be unveiled and recognized. What is that veils it? What is that which veils? Is your forgetfulness, your unconsciousness which covers the truth. We'll continue on this in tomorrow's session. What is forgetfulness? That covers the truth. Until then, take care.